Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited you could be here because today we're talking about the ultimate guide to flipping and wholesaling real estate. I mean, we have a best-selling author with us today to actually dive in and give you the nitty-gritty, step-by-step process to walk through this. So with us today is Justin Colby. Now, Justin's actually the founder of the Science of Flipping podcast and the Science of Flipping coaching program as well. After investing in real estate for over 17 years now and almost 3,000 deals done, Justin has created a business that generates seven figures in active income through wholesaling and fix and flipping, as well as accumulating millions of dollars of rental properties, including 5 apartment buildings, 50 plus single family homes, and 1 storage facility. Now, Justin's longevity in real estate is due to his ability to look around the corners, adapt to changing markets, perfecting raising capital, and focusing on lead generation, which allows him to not just wholesale, fix, and flip, but also accumulate wealth through long-term holds. Now, his success in real estate led him to start the Entrepreneur DNA podcast and the Science of Flipping podcast and education company where he has coached and mentored thousands of aspiring and active investors in the last decade. Now, he is nationally recognized speaker and is on a mission to educate as many people as possible on becoming a successful, dynamic real estate investor. Justin, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us.
Dude, thank you for that. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and help your audience however I can.
Yeah, I'm excited too because before we got started, congratulations, man. You just released a book and it sounds like it already went to an Amazon bestseller status. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Thank you so much. It was a passion project to start. And I'll tell you, anyone thinking about writing a book, you think it's easy because you've already gone through it. It's all in your head. Man, writing a book is a special skill, if you will, right? And so I was like, oh, dude, I'm going to whip this book out in whatever I said, 90 days. And oh, it took me a whole year, right? And so, but yeah, all that love, all that passion, now it is 18 years since we just changed it. It's 18 years officially. And so it all went into the book. It's Flipping to Wealth. If you want to check it out, you can go to it's all over Amazon. You can also go to flipping2wealth.com, flipping2wealth.com. And I give away a bunch of freebies within the book and on the website. And so if you're interested in fixing, flipping, wholesaling, raising money, all I give away like so many freebies. My actual publisher was like, what the hell? So again, flipping2wealth.com. And yeah, hit #1 bestseller in 3 different categories: real estate sales, and finance.
All right, man. Congratulations. I appreciate that. And then as we wrap up, I'll also hit that again. You said it's flipping2wealth.com with the number two, flipping the number two wealth.com to get the book.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you're watching, make sure you check it out, flipping2wealth.com. So let me ask you this. You do a lot of stuff, right? You have storage facilities, you have long-term, you do fix and flip, you do wholesaling. So what is so sexy and appealing about flipping and wholesaling that is one of the big things that you spend a lot of time on?
So I call it cash flow. And I know most people consider cash flow like rental property cash flow. I actually consider it like the other way. It's cash flow to be able to afford the life that you want so you can create the opportunities of buying assets. Right now, I also tell you in the book, and I would tell you here on this episode, is like, I'm not wholesaling and fix and flipping to make a lot of money for myself, cash flow wise, to put that money into rentals. I don't. You just, in your intro of me, you talked about how I've now created a pretty tight way to raise capital. So I'm always raising capital for rentals, apartments, storage facilities, single family homes. I'm always raising other capital. So even though the wholesaling, fix and flipping creates income, really high active income, and I kind of call it cash flow, right? Um, it doesn't go into the rentals, right? I still strategically raise money for assets that I'm going to keep.
So that makes sense. So you're not taking it and making money to reinvest into the real estate. You're already getting outside money to invest in real estate. You're taking that money and using it actually for that money to come some kind of basically siphon down and come to you.
Yeah, no, it's active income. I mean, that's where you can just create the lifestyle you want, right? I believe everyone should be in real estate, every single person, right? And just depending upon like the IRS considers me a professional real estate investor. Like that is how I get the best write-offs you possibly can get with assets. So if my active income through wholesaling and fixing and flipping is really good, then by me buying apartments, by me buying storage facilities, I'm actually able to take a lot of that write off against my active income because I'm categorized as a real estate professional, right? This is my full-time thing. If I was a garbage man, I would not have the same type of tax write-off, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't get the tax write-off. It's just not as aggressive. I'm able to take bonus depreciation on a lot of things, which keeps my write-offs very aggressive. But yes, wholesaling, flipping, you do that for income. Like I can change anyone's life, right? I run something called REI Live. REILive.co, not .com, .co is a program where I help people get their very first deal. Or for some, they may have gotten a deal or two randomly, but I actually help them create deal flow because I'm talking to the homeowner, I'm talking to the agent. And that has actually helped me help others quit their 9 to 5 jobs, go full time into this, create the taxable identification of a real estate professional, and get the bonus appreciation because now they left their W-2 job. And so I will never, well, I don't want to say that. I doubt I will stop wholesaling in fix and flipping um, because it is such a good lucrative cash flow income stream. But the bigger play over the next 18 years that I'm going to go on is going to be buying assets.
How does somebody break in? Like if somebody's interested in getting started for the first time in wholesaling and flipping, and that's what you just talked about, you're really a specialist in helping them get that first deal. What are some of the
Yeah.
first steps that somebody should take if they're looking to dive into fix and flip or wholesaling?
Yeah, without shamelessly promoting myself, reilive.co.co literally is that. So 5 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day, I have brand newbies bring me leads, me and my team. So I have a general manager, I have acquisition team. We will actually on Zoom, where they are a part of the conversation, call that homeowner or call that agent, and we share the deal 50-50, right? And that way, all the new person has to do is start the conversation. Hey, Mr. Homeowner, why are you selling? Do you need to sell this year or next year? Like a very general question based starting conversation. They hand the conversation over to me, my general manager, my acquisition team, and on Zoom in front of the entire community, we negotiate the deal, comp the deal, contract the deal right then and right there. So reilive.co is the place every newbie needs to go because deals are actively happening because I'm not just coaching people anymore. I'm actually doing it with them. We share the deal 50-50. If we're going to wholesale it, I have a tool called Investor Lift that has 5 million active buyers. So I can wholesale deals anywhere in the country and we just share it 50-50 and it starts to gain, they get the confidence and the certainty that this actually works. It's not just for us gurus. Anyone can do this business. Anyone can wholesale or fix and flip the deal.
So, what do you say to somebody when it comes to assessing whether or not it makes sense for a property to be able to? You're talking about analyzing a deal in order to be a wholesaler, fix and
Yeah.
flip. What's some of the advice you give people for that analyzation stage?
It's always you got to always look at the best potential of the asset. Okay. So for me, all of my business runs on a price point of $300,000 or less. All of my business. And the reason why I do that is because although maybe the wholesale fees are a little bit smaller, the fix and flip fees or profits might be a little bit smaller relative to $1 million flip or $1 million assignment out in California, is because now I have an asset that I could do either. I could just wholesale it, or I could fix and flip it, or keep it as a rental. Right, that price point allows my business model to diversify. So in your intro of me, you said be a dynamic real estate investor. I preach that. I'm tired of the one trick pony wholesale, 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 wholesale. Don't get me wrong, I still wholesale. It is a great strategy, but you also need to be fix and flipping. You also need to be buying and holding. And so when I focus and I encourage all individuals in the single family space specifically, if you're going to break into this space of real estate investing, start with everything under 300,000 because you can fix and flip those and you can keep them. Which even if you're going to wholesale, now you have two different buyers. You have the fix and flip buyer and you have the landlord buyer. So that's how you do that. Now, how specifically do I underwrite it? I don't really want to hold a rental if I can't net cash flow at a very, very base minimum $200 a month. Okay. And that still isn't very sexy. I also want to essentially be able to have as minimal money left in the deal as possible. So I run the Burr method. The Burr method, for those that don't know, is you buy it, you remodel it, you rent it, and then you refinance. The refinance section is very important. If you buy it right and you force the appreciation through your rehab, banks a lot of times will finance a number higher than you're into the deal. So we just did a refinance on a 5 deal package that we own. And we actually did a cash out refi and put $15,000 back into our pocket and all the cash that was in the deal in the 5 deals. And so that's why I like forced appreciation, the Burr model, is because if you do it right and if you analyze it right and acquire it right, you're not going to have any of your own cash or anyone's cash into the property except for the bank.
So if you're looking at Burr, first step is to buy. So what's some of the financing on the creative side that you're using to help your tribe, your students, be able to figure out how to do the initial purchase?
So I give them my buy box. So part of what I do at reilive.co is they literally are seeing my buy box. As I'm talking to the seller, as I'm talking to the agent, they're seeing on my screen my analysis of, all right, we're going to buy it for 100. We're going to put 80 grand into it. It's worth 299,000. In my buy box, I have a 6 month hold time. I have 11% hard money fees. I have all the closing costs. It's all formulaic, right? It's all in that buy box. Only members of reilive.co can get it, right? And this is not expensive, just so everyone knows. Like, I'm not trying to sell anyone a 10,000, 20,000. Like, this is $197 a month, right? And there's 5 calls a week, 2 to 3 hours a day, and we're really doing deals. This is not some expensive thing. But then they can see like how we analyze it because it's a very simple buy box. And in that same buy box, so on the top is like, does it fit for a fix and flip? And then under that, does it fit for a long-term hold? Not short-term, but long-term. So all the analytics are there. So we underwrite it at 7.5% interest. And the bank refinancing us at 75% of after repair value, and all that plays in. And we'll see how much equity we have at that level. We'll see how much rent we get after we're paying principal, interest, taxes, insurance, property management. And then we'll also see how much is left in the property, right? How much capital did we leave into the property? And then if everything goes green, then you're like, we're we're doing something with this, right? Now we just need to decide what's the best potential for it.
Long-term hold, flip, wholesale type scenario.
I love long-term holds. I'm just more and more passionate. Here's why. It gives you what I call bankability, right? Because if you stick to my model, which is like under 300,000, no one has ever gone bankrupt buying homes at $150,000, right? I mean, I guess I don't want to be too polar. Like, sure, if you have one rental and you lost your job, and okay, fine. But as a real estate investor, you really have the opportunity. Like, we looked at a deal yesterday that we own. We actually are thinking and considering selling it off seller financing. The reason why is because if we sold it for top dollar, we would make, I think the numbers came to like $59,000 as a flip, right? We already bought it, we already remodeled it. So now we're trying to decide what we want to do. $59,000 flip is great, right? I mean, we would list it at 330, 329, 59 grand would come to us. Great. It's a great little flip. But if I sell it seller financing to a homestead buyer, not to an investor, to a homestead buyer who can't get a loan because they did something bad to their credit or the interest rates are too high or whatever the case may be, I would actually make a little bit less. I think the number was like $54,000 in my pocket. And I would have a 60,000 equity play. And I know this is going to be a little bit more advanced, but now the equity of that deal stays in the deal. And I create a second note like a bank would, like a first mortgage and a second mortgage. And I hold that note for $60,000. I can put interest on that note, or I could keep it at 0% interest. But then when the homeowner then pays off the note in a 10-year balloon, I made the 54 up front, which is very similar to the 59 total, plus the equity that I have in that property actually gets created into a note. In 10 years from now, I'll have another $60,000 check come. Plus, because of how the financing works, rent in that area was like $2,400, something like that. My mortgage on a DSCR loan was going to be something like 1,800. So after fees and whatever, I was going to be making $400 a month positive cash flow on my, loan to the seller versus my loan to the bank. So I'm making money at the front end by selling it this way. I'm making money for the 10 years while I'm holding it, and then I have another payday when I sell it. And so we're really leaning into that concept even further. And I know this is a little more advanced, so I apologize, guys. But I really love the Burr model for this reason is you can get paid on the front, in the middle, and during the back if you get a little bit more creative on how you're selling it. Again, all this is in the book, but yeah, I'm just leaning into that.
If you are buying it for the Burr method and you're making the initial purchase, you mentioned DSCR. Is that your primary go-to? Because I mean, there's loans for different purposes. Like if you're doing fix and flip, you might do hard money fix and flip financing. But if you're going to buy it, doesn't need a lot of rehab, and you're going to keep it long term, what kind of financing do you usually recommend for your students? Because I imagine that's one of the biggest objections. Like when I talk to people about real estate in our world, they want the money to get in. That's the biggest concern they have. If that barrier was removed, they get in. So, what are you teaching your students about the initial money they need to do the initial purchase?
Yeah, I mean, so it just depends. You always need some level of money, regardless if you're rehabbing it or buying it as a rental. And so I always talk about raising private capital. Like I said, my wholesale in fix and flip company makes me a lot of money, but I don't use it for that.
Right.
I have a structured system on how I go out and raise capital. And so let's just say I went to you and, hey, Ty, I have property 123 Main Street. We're going to need $60,000 on it. I'm going to give you 10% interest, and you're going to be protected by the asset itself. Well, Ty might have some money and he wants to get in the real estate game, but Ty has a banker's job and works behind a desk all day and doesn't have time to do this. But this ties them to kind of being a part of our world. It's a sexy world, right? Is fix and flipping and real estate. So it ties Ty to that in this example. And so a lot of people just want to be around that, right? They want to be a part of the action. Not to mention, the stock market is volatile, interest rates and people have retirement accounts that's losing money. And so not to mention I'm giving a great return, right? But I lead really with the ability to be a part of my world.
If I'm following what you're doing, like how feasible is it to get to a point where I'm doing one of these deals every month, like as I get started?
I would say as feasible as it is of how much time do you put forth. You don't need a lot of money. So how much time are you investing? You're going to spend something. You're going to spend money or you're going to spend time. In some cases, you're going to do both. But it comes down to how much time, how many offers are you making, right? Are you calling agents? Are you reaching out to homeowners, right? What is it that you're doing? But, you know, I had a guy in 2024 specifically join my community, my coaching community, and he worked as a car salesman and he was making multiple six figures. Within 3 or 4 months, he quit his job because he was able to get a deal and saw another deal coming. And he's like, oh, if I could do this full time. So at the end of the year, he looked back and he did like 17 deals in the 12 months. So it's not a couple a month, but it created 17 deals. And I want to say he averaged $15,000 thereabout. So he basically learned that he could replicate his income, be on his own time, be an entrepreneur, have tax write-offs, right? And do it his own way versus going to the car dealership on every weekend. He has two kids, right? He's like, oh my God, even if I made $50,000 less, this is worth it because I have my weekends back. I have time with my kids and my family, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's very viable. Just how much work are you going to put in?
I like the fact that you say time and work because so many people, will hear somebody come on the show like what you're talking about, and they think it's easy, right? And we know it's not easy. So let me ask you this: where is the time component? Like when
Yeah.
I'm getting in, and let's say I want to get into wholesaling, I want to get into flipping. Where is the time component of that process?
So I'm going to use another example, Mo. He is a part of my REILive.co. He has two jobs, two to pay his bills, two full-time jobs, right? This year, and today as we record is January 15th, he has contracted 5 deals. He has sold one already as a wholesale deal that I helped him sell. He has 3 others that are going out in marketing. And today he texted me already saying, I have another deal I think we're going to be able to contract in Dallas. if anyone has excuses, it's him. He has two full-time jobs. I mean, he literally finds time in the morning and find times at night. And it's never about the resources, but it's about being resourceful. So he, for example, on his second job, he's literally texting me while texting the agent about this deal in Dallas. Because remember, reilive.co is me helping you genuinely do the deal, not just teach, right? Not just coach. That's why it's $197, not 10 grand. I say that because he finds the time. He's resourceful, right? So a lot of people will make you the excuse, yeah, but Justin, I have kids, I have work, I have a husband, I have a wife, I have well, pick your hard. Is it hard to be broke? Absolutely. Is it hard to sacrifice personal time to make money so you can create more time? Absolutely. But what hard are you going to pick? Because they're both hard, right? So in his case, he's fed up working two jobs, absolutely fed up. And he's like, I'm willing to sacrifice whatever I need to sacrifice to, at minimum, quit my first job, but ultimately quit them both. And so I tell people, like, morning and night, you got kids, you have a husband, you have a wife, you have, job, like, find the time. I woke up at 3 a.m. today, Ty. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because I have so much on my plate, I have to find the time, right? And so part of that time is for me, right? I need quiet, right? I don't know if you have kids, like, I need mental space to just go, because I have a lot going on, right? Not just real estate and coaching, and I have a tech business and just everything. Two kids, wife, so I say that to say you just find it. And people are like, oh, I'm not a morning person. I like to stay up late. Well, then what are you doing when you stay up late? That's the question.
So if I have the time to commit and I'm looking at, let's say, wholesaling, is that do I spend a lot of my time that I do have? Do I spend it on finding the right property? Do I find it on the marketing side? Do I spend a lot of
Always.
time on negotiating with the seller? Is it finding the buyer? Like, where is most of the time? I'd imagine it's front heavy on trying to find the right deal is where I'd probably commit most of my time in the
That's
process.
right. You're exactly right. Because a deal will find buyers. So people are like, oh, I need to make sure I have a buyer for no, no, no. Go find a deal. Like if you find a deal, you can go to a Facebook group and say, hey, I have 123 Main Street. Does anyone want like it'll be sold in a second, right? So spend your time working the deal. Now, how do you do that? Well, if you don't have money, and I'm just going to make the assumption no one's going to come out and say, yeah, I'm ready to spend 10 grand a month in marketing and spend all the agents. Agents are a valid resource. People just don't think it's a deal because it's on the MLS. It's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I do deals each and every month with agents, right? As a part of my business. So that's a free resource. The other resource is pull a list and start smiling and dialing. Send some direct mail strategically to a very refined list, very small, 70 people. The mail costs $1 each, is $70. It's not 700 or 7,000, right? That's what you got to do. I would encourage you guys to work with other investors, right? Other investors might have the deal. So then all you now need to go do is find the buyer for that deal. But then you need to understand how to analyze the property because you think it's a deal because the wholesaler has it. You're not using the right word, right? It doesn't mean it's a deal, right? A deal is a good deal. This just might be a property that's under contract. So, you can definitely find someone like me and bring a buyer to my property, and I'll happily, we're doing this right now in Texas. A local guy in Texas, I know him very, very well. He is the guy. He knows all the buyers. I called him immediately when we got a deal under contract, said, hey, think you can find a buyer for this? Within 2 hours, he says, hey, one of my buyers wants to see it on whatever day, Wednesday or whatever, right? So it's always about like, does someone else have your buyer? And so if you can go find a deal from me because you see it, go find a buyer for that person.
So Justin, I've been in businesses before where the decision of who you pursue, let's say the customer wise, I did it wrong, and then it cost me, and then I lost a lot of time. Same thing here
Sure.
with real estate and markets, right? So you're in Miami. I mean, I can imagine you're probably not spending less than 300K. That's probably not your main investment market. I could be wrong because
You're right.
Miami's a little bit expensive, right? So
A little
like
bit.
how do you choose and how do you help your students choose the right market to go into? Or Because I imagine spreading, all over the place, trying to go all over the country doesn't make sense. So how do you help them narrow down the right market to target?
Yeah, so I my first answer is usually just follow me because I'm a real buyer also, right? So I buy and flip, I buy and hold, and I wholesale, right? And so I like to work in certain states. I like to buy properties in certain states. The Carolinas, both of them, Florida, typically northern Florida, mid to northern Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, and Oklahoma. So I usually will tell my students in reilive.co, I say, follow where I'm at. Pick those states in general, and then start picking cities in those states, right? I mean, you think of a Florida or a Texas, even Alabama has three pretty major cities from Huntsville to Mobile to Birmingham. I mean, you have options. North Carolina, you have Asheville and Greensboro and Charlotte and Raleigh. Like there's options. So I say I'm a buyer in these. You're already going to be using my buy box because you're a part of reilive.co. Like just follow me and find me a deal. Let's use it that way. And if I don't want to buy it because maybe the economics don't work or whatever, the rehab project too big, let's just wholesale it. But just follow me because that's where the money's flowing. Follow the money.
Justin, great stuff today. Where can everybody go? I think we've already talked about reilive.co. And then
Yeah.
where can everybody go to learn more? Is that the main place that they should go to be able to talk and be able to learn more?
Yeah, go there, but also you can go to my Instagram. So it's really me. I'm not, I don't have some bot talking to everybody. If you go to Instagram, the Justin Colby, and hit me up. And what I would encourage you just for this podcast, let me know you heard me on Ty's podcast, right? Say, what's up? Just heard you with Ty. And let's have a con, you know what I mean? I'm a normal guy. I'll happily answer your questions, but just let me know you heard me with Ty, the Justin Colby on Instagram.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Justin, thanks for coming on with us today.
Right on, brother. Appreciate you having me.
All right, so listen, if you're watching this, you can find Justin on Instagram, as you just said. A couple other actions I want you to take. First, make sure you just go grab his book, because if you really want to take a next step, then help him be able, well, help yourself and help him. He's already an Amazon bestseller, so it doesn't necessarily need your help, but it's still going in and buying the book gives him support, and then it also helps you. I find that books really help you outline the process, and then in a way that we weren't able to get into all today because we only have 30 minutes, right? So that will give you a lot more insight and depth and help you realize, yes, this is something I definitely want to do. And you can get that book at flipping2wealth.com. That's flipping the number two. So flipping2wealth.com. So make sure you check that out besides finding Justin on Instagram. The next thing you want to do is you make sure that you go to reilive.co. Look, I don't know about you. I've had a lot of guests, on the podcast throughout the years we've been here. We're like at 900 something guests, right? But I've never had anybody that ever has a program where you can go in and see the whole thing and work their working deals with you, right? Like they're coming in. And again, the way it's structured, Justin benefits as much by that deal getting done as you do, right? It's a split. So like he has every motivation to help you get the deal done. And I love that when somebody else is as vested as you are, because again, like he's as vested as you are. So again, he only wins when you win. So make sure you check it out. That's reilive.co, reilive.co, right? So make sure you check it out, because this is a really low monthly way to be able to come in, be able to get the help you need to actually get these deals done. And look, let's be honest, that's the hardest part. That's where everybody screws this thing up. Everybody goes out, they think they find somebody that wants to sell, and then they put the wrong money into it. They do the wrong deals. I mean, they mess everything up. Well, this fixes all of that so you don't make those mistakes. So make sure you check it out at reilive.co. So make sure you find Justin on Instagram. Go to reilive.co to make sure you join the community there. And also make sure you go to flipping2wealth.com. That's flipping the number 2wealth.com to get Justin's book. Thanks very much for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day.